has been your most meaningful lesson or experience in climate? Climate myth you wish people would stop believing. Sustainability habit everyone can adopt today. A book or resource you'd recommend for anyone interested. If you could leave our audience with one message about turning climate commitments into real action, that climate finance can solve climate change. Focus on your daily practices. I think we do not have a lot of local books written, so local climate action. It's not one word, it's three words, but or indigenous knowledge. Hello and welcome, dear viewers. This is the third episode of Development Dialogues, and today we have not just an amazing topic to talk about, but also an amazing guest to discuss this important topic with. I would like to welcome to the third episode of Development Dialogues, Dr. Zainab Naeem.
Thank you so much, and I'm really happy to be here. So, I'm Zainab Naeem. I am an environmental scientist by qualification. I work at Sustainable Development Policy Institute. I lead the research program on ecological sustainability and circular economy, and I also look after the portfolio of climate adaptation. So I have a team of researchers that I work with, and otherwise on pro bono basis, you often see me on media doing advocacy around climate resilience, loss and damage, and Pakistan's overall climate vulnerabilities.
Okay, Dr. Zainab, welcome to the show. You've worked extensively in the climate policy, circular economy, and sustainability domains. But where did this journey start? What inspired you to dedicate your career to climate action?
So my journey, it did not start from textbooks. It started because of the way I was being raised at home by my family. So I used to observe my mother. She loved plants. She loved nature, and she was always taking a lot of care of the plants in the garden and everything. Secondly, as a family, my father used to take us to the Margilla Hills because I have been raised here in the Twin Cities, and it was always lovely because he used to show us nature, and so the love for nature was instilled by my parents, and then my grandparents. They were always, they used to talk about the weather systems because they were from Punjab, so talking about when the monsoon is going to start, Barsat and the Sawan, and different seasons. How when they used to hear the birds coo, especially the koel bird. So they always told me that it's the beginning of monsoon now because the koel is cooing, and after that, so it was just basic things that nowadays people are they do not pay a lot of attention to. And then it was basic, simple lifestyle that they taught us to live with. And also, I was an avid reader. We loved reading books as children, me and my sister. So, with my grandfather and my father. So, I think at that time, it was a lot of literary sort of environment, and love for nature was instilled because of what I saw my parents doing. And the most favorite trips used to be in the mountains with the extended family, where we used to take our own homemade, home cooked food, and instead of relying on some restaurants, we had our own cooked food. And at the end of the day, our parents taught us to pick up everything, to keep the place clean, because animals were also living there, especially the monkeys in the Margilla, so they're not supposed to mess around. So I think that was something that I learned from them, and that has shaped me to, especially when I started, I decided to pursue environmental sciences again. My father, he guided me to pursue environmental sciences because it was out of choice, not out of, I did not get admission in the medical, but because he insisted that this degree has a lot of scope. So I think that was one of the best decisions, and I pursued my BS, MPhil, and even PhD in the same discipline. So that's how I learned about environment and climate change. I knew these concepts when I was just a child, and the term climate change was not very common.
Amazing. Maybe that's the difference between someone who goes to environmental science by choice and someone who's forced to be left from other fields and then choose environmental science. So now we know that there is a deep rooted connection between you and nature, and it comes from the family.
And this kind of connection definitely impacts your career pathways a lot. So now let's move forward. Climate change is often discussed globally. आपको पता है we need to COPs as well. But what does it actually mean for everyday lives of people in Pakistan?
I think Pakistanis are one of the nations who have been gradually observing the impacts of climate change for decades now. This is an area where this is a region where communities have learned it before other countries or other or people living in other countries learned about climate change. For instance, they exactly know because we are lucky that agriculture is still very much organic in our country because there are communities who rely on years old knowledge of agriculture, the practices that are connected with nature, and then about the irrigation system that is river based, indus based irrigation system, plus we also have rain torrent based irrigation system, and then intense heat, especially in the southern areas of Pakistan. People in Sindh and Balochistan, they've had this idea. So that's how they were adapting to it over the period of time. However, now over like for the last 10 years at least, or even 15 years, the pace of this entire climate change, it has, I think, become manifold. And that is one of the key areas where now people, because urbanization has also been trending and it has been growing also, so people in the cities are not very much well prepared. But people in rural areas still are. But then there are other challenges also because we have been facing floods, the 2010-11 floods, the 22 floods, the 2025 floods. So people, the migration has been there. So there's a lot of pressure on the urban areas over the last 10 to 15 years. That's why we are now witnessing more impacts in the urban areas. And that is also a question of resilience. But again, I do not blame people here. Completely, what I blame is the kind of governance mechanism who did not prepare the cities in advance for these kind of challenges that scientists had already been warning about us. So we did not pay any heed to it. So I think from people, and on another note, the acknowledgement of the indigenous knowledge has been missing from our policies. So when I say we know what climate change is, we know the practices, unfortunately our policies are not acknowledging it. That's why we do not see it in our cities. That's why we do not talk about it much. And that's why we think that our resilience is shattered, but that is not the case. Our resilience is simply not getting acknowledged, and that's why it's not getting scaled up.
Amazing. I totally agree with the indigenous knowledge part because we think that indigenous knowledge, like we don't think, usually people think indigenous knowledge is not that much needed in climate resilience or adaptation, but it is. And we have such knowledge, say in our mountain regions and in rural areas, that can really help us fight climate change and adapt. Let's move to the next question. Pakistan's biggest climate challenges. In your opinion, what are the three biggest climate challenges Pakistan is facing nowadays?
I think what Pakistan is facing, these are cascading impacts of multiple impacts of climate change. But the biggest challenge is no acknowledgement of these impacts. We acknowledge floods, we do not acknowledge intense heat, whereas as per World Health Organization multi-year analysis, intense heat impacts are more severe compared to floods and earthquakes combined. So, but in our policies we do not address it, although heat is not something that we are witnessing now. We witnessed it in 2022, we witnessed it in 2024, and in 2020, before that in 2015 as well. But even then, we did not acknowledge it. So it is the misunderstanding and lack of right priorities that is our biggest challenge. Second challenge is that right people for the right job, they're not there. Unfortunately, if you go through the different policies that are there in context of climate change in Pakistan, whether that's environment, forest, or anything, those are devoid of acknowledgement of the indigenous knowledge. They do not mention it. They are devoid of the scientific evidence that is happening in Pakistan. we do acknowledge global scientific evidence, but local science is missing. So when we talk about implementation, why it's not there? The issue is when have not made the right policies, people do not understand it. They lack the capacities to comprehend what's exactly written in those policies, and then policies are also devoid of strategic action planning. It's not a long-term policy. Those are simple documents without any indicators, set targets, and that's why we are lagging behind. And plus, third challenge is, within this challenge, the sub-challenge is the development priority. Climate is not our development priority, and that's an unfortunate situation again. So when I talk about development, it means economic and fiscal planning, where you integrate climate change and you prioritize it in your governance, from top tier governance and the bottom up approach. At district level, you have to move.
I second this last point because I was reading this SDG priority list that the last government had done, and unfortunately SDG 13 was put in the third priority. So not even one, not even two, third priority. And then what happens, one flood comes in 2022 and it wipes even the rest of the priority SDGs progress from 2015 to 2022. So this is what happens when you put climate action into the last priority. Is going to haunt us back. It's going to flood our schools. SDG 4 is gone. It's going to flood our hospitals. SDG 3 is gone.
Yeah.
So
but then the last challenge is misinterpretation of development itself. So we think development means all the green infrastructure. We have to keep on constructing malls, restaurants, housing societies, by ignoring the climate critical infrastructure, which is the blue buffers, rivers, the green buffers, your green areas, your forests, and then your glaciers, your biodiversity, hotspots, etc. We do not acknowledge climate critical infrastructure as part of development. That's why you see national parks being encroached. That's why it's totally okay to open restaurants in our national parks, and it's totally fine. So nobody's and rather people are going to say, oh yes, that is a good thing. So we go there and enjoy the restaurant, pollute the environment, take some Instagrammable pictures, and get back. That's it. But they do not realize if pollution is going to stay in your national park, it's going to create a lot of damage to your biodiversity, ecological habitat, your overall localized climate. They
and
have
in the long run to
this.
the economy as ecotourism opportunity is best.
Absolutely.
So I agree with this part, and the development, understanding what is development, I second you. First of all, we don't even prioritize when we are voting, for example, we don't see their manifestos, we don't vote accordingly. And then when I see this development space, we yet don't even understand the term development, and the next thing, which is sustainable development, that we are focusing on, and that you referred, including the climate resilience. I would say very rarely people in Pakistan would understand this wholesome, sustainable development concept that also includes the other parts, not just grey infrastructure. Unfortunately, the development model that people see in Pakistan, that people vote for in Pakistan, is the one with grey infrastructure and industrialization.
Even if you see, they forget that sustainable development has three pillars: environment, economy, and social. So unfortunately, the misinterpretation is mostly linked with those who justify it with economy and societal priorities, not with the environment. So, and that's why it's happening, because there's lack of technical understanding. So again, I connected with right people for the right job. That's not happening in our country. That's the issue.
And many people are misfits wherever we see, like in our organizations, they might have some other expertise and they are doing something else. So I agree with that. Not the right people for the right jobs. Now let's go to the policy versus implementation part. Pakistan has introduced several climate policies over the years. You've been also reading them, we've been also. Where do you think the biggest gap lies between policy making and implementation?
The biggest gap is again the policies are not acknowledging the customary and indigenous knowledge. Let me share an instance with you. So once I was sitting with somebody around, discussing adaptation, and I mentioned indigenous knowledge, and it was somebody from the public sector, and they said that okay, indigenous knowledge is not scientific knowledge. And just a few months ago, and I said this is something that is recently acknowledged by the United Nations Environment Program as part of their mandatory part of their adaptation process. How can we ignore indigenous knowledge? Community knowledge is the key. So again, for implementation of those policies, when customary laws and practices are not there, those who are responsible for enforcement, what are they going to enforce exactly? If they are not being told that floodplains are not meant for your housing societies, these areas are not supposed to have any kind of man-built infrastructure. This is an area that is the root of a river. So you are not going to allow it. Why real estate is allowed to build? Who issues them NOCs? So the issue is when technical people do not make policies by engaging in communities, by understanding the local ground realities, that those policies are simply going to be mere theories that are, that the people in the government require certain departments to enforce. How are those people going to enforce it? They can't, because they are devoid of realities and the local scientific evidence. So the issue is, again, policy is not, it is not supposed to be something that we get out from ChatGPT, that we get out from mere consultations while sitting in Islamabad. No, it's not going to work that way. We need to understand the local ground realities. We need to understand why people do glacier crafting in Gilgit. We need to understand why coastal communities in Thanta, what do they do to avoid the salinity in their soil that they use for agriculture. Why people living in, in Bahawalpur, the desert areas, how do they survive? What are their challenges? Is drought an issue in Bahawalpur, or is it the flooding? So the vulnerabilities are different for different zones in Pakistan. So without, you cannot have a one fit for all document for everything. You need to identify the zones. You need to upgrade your policies. It is a dynamic science. Climate is a dynamic science. Water is a dynamic science. You cannot keep on relying on one policy document that got developed back in 2010 or 2017. You need to revise it, have a look at it, and then talk about the implementation gaps. Only then we will be able to realize what is the issue. Otherwise, we might continue doing so, and we might continue bearing the vulnerability risks. We might continue not getting any funds, and we might continue to face migration, whether that's legal or illegal. So this is what's happening.
One policy that was going in my mind while you were referring to, I really like the policy document. It's under SDG 12, responsible consumption production. The first target 12.1, which requires that we have a 10 years framework for SCP. And when you go to our framework, it was launched in 2017, so we are still in that time frame. It's one of the best documents I have seen as in policy, because it goes down to the line departments. Okay, forest के साथ ये है, उन्होंने ये करना है, local governments के साथ ये है,
Yeah, the national action
it's
plan.
such a good, it's such a good document, like plan policy. But what I see also is that when successive governments come, they just want to come up with another policy and not continue the good work of the previous governments. I think this is also one area where we are having this gap between policies and implementation over the years. It's a very good policy, but maybe they're just waiting for this time frame to end and come up with another policy.
I think that's one of the areas where people, ourselves, we need to give a push. For example, recently the elections were held in Pakistan. I did not find any climate priority in any of the manifestos of any political party. So, I mean, why did the people not push for it? I am not saying who got selected or who got the max votes. I'm not saying that. The challenge is, did people not question anything? I mean, what are the challenges there? What are their problems? And same is the thing that happens during our national elections as well. Why do people not give a push for climate, making climate a priority? Why is this push missing from us? And you do not need to have some sort of press conferences for this kind of push. It starts with your own priorities as a consumer. I love SDG 12, that's my favorite one. And just recently I was at some place where I was giving a lecture on the same thing to the Gen Zs. And you and I, we are millennials, right? So the Gen Zs have a lot of questions, and I was giving a lecture on sustainable consumption and everything. So I said, the consumption, the consumer choices, it all starts from 4 words. Log kya kahenge? What people will say in Pakistan. The wedding, one wedding, पूरी फैमिली का कार्बन बजट वो वन वेडिंग पे स्पेंड हो जाता है एक शादी पे. Your entire bridal lehenga has 4,500 liters of water, and then you will say we need to have include drinks, we need to include dowry, we need to include everything, otherwise log kya kahenge. And then it also starts with your आपकी अपनी choices around as a consumer. For example, when we were young, we used to, whenever extended family and cousins used to gather, so we used to have that dastakhan where we used to sit together and eat together with a bismillah, and we, food waste nahi hota tha. Why? Because एक शर्म से ना कि what if I wasted my plate and my cousin, and एक दूसरे को कहते थे देखो उसने खाना ज़ाया नहीं किया, इकट्ठे बैठ के खाना. And then while performing ablution, Dadi used to say, beta, close the tap, you're wasting water, it's not good. Beta, it's hot, pani ki kami ho jayegi, so don't waste it. And then, you go to Mochi, the cobbler, for your shoe repair. You go to Darzi with your cut pieces to the tailor to get an entire dress stitched up. Prep is something very new. So, why am I purchasing a plastic bottle? When I know that there used to be glass bottles with a deposit return scheme. Because my demand for plastics increased, so the producers started increasing their production. So essentially this is connected with me. Why are we only relying on the narrative of blaming the producers? Producer तब बनाना बंद कर देगा जब आप अपना खरीदना बंद कर देंगे. So the individual responsibility is there. If I think environment is not a priority in anybody's election manifesto, at least I'll try to talk to the political party representatives. At least I'll try to host them over social media. If I'm a nobody, I'll at least use my phone to deliver my message using a video. I have it. This is the biggest platform that I can use, even if I'm nobody. So I did not see that push from anybody. And this is unfortunate that where are we standing as youngsters, as Pakistanis? Why we are okay with everything? Why are we so dejected that change is not going to ever happen in our country? Why are we saying, mulk ne kya diya? Why are we not asking what have we given to our country as an individual? So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves before we blame anybody else as well. Have we done anything in our community? Any waste campaign? Anything around it? Climate change तो हो रहा है ना, but आपने अपनी उसके community की streets की सफाई या वहाँ कोई drain लगता है उसकी सफाई के लिए try किया? I think that's the question we also need to ask ourselves.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that take. Now let's go to the global climate governance part. Having participated along with you in international conference such as COP28, COP29, you went on to COP30 as well. I know it was a most difficult one, but yes, you did the hat trick. मेरा hat trick इस साल से दोबारा start हो जाएगा. What key lessons should Pakistan or Pakistanis bring back and implement locally from COPs?
Realistically speaking, COP is like any other global fair where we just have to acknowledge our presence. COP se pehle there's a lot of homework that is done. There's a lot of work around what needs to become part of the agenda that happens during SPs, the board meeting. Pakistan, unfortunately, is only becoming part of, we are part of the participants for whom decisions are being made. We are not becoming part of the table where decisions are part of those participants who actually make the decisions.
For the agenda setting.
Exactly, and this is not linked with the reality that we are a developing country. No, so there are so many developing countries who are always there, who make sure that their agendas are part of the COP, and their people listen them and they make sure that they are the ones who are also part of the decision making process. Pakistan is unfortunately are not. कॉप के अराउंड हमारा काम स्टार्ट होता है 2 हफ्ते पहले, कॉप आने वाली है, ओके साइड इवेंट क्या होना है, पेवेलियन कितना बड़ा होगा, किसको हम हाई लेवल बंदे को बुला सकते हैं, कौन से ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ साइड इवेंट कर सकते हैं, नेगोशिएशंस की कमेटियाँ बना दें, एंड दैट्स इट। वहाँ पे हो जाता है सबसे बड़ा पेवेलियन पे मार्केटिंग ब्रांडिंग क्या होगी, क्या नहीं होगा, वीडियो कौन सी चलेगी। दिस इज अनफॉर्चुनेट। It's like more like an exhibition where size of pavilion determines okay how, if you know we were there at COP or not. It is nothing about what Pakistan actually needs to showcase. We need to showcase not just our vulnerabilities but also our credibility as a country that is vulnerable and trying hard to take climate action. But unfortunately we're not doing that, so that's why we have nothing to showcase. But it doesn't mean that good work is not being done. There's a lot of good work being done. I just discussed some of our vernacular traditions and our practices, right? Why are we not consistent in context of climate diplomacy? Why are we not raising this issue throughout the year? Why do we need a mega floods? Why do we need a super kind of earthquake? Why do we need a super kind of intense episode of climate change to tell the world that we are vulnerable? We need to have a lot of diplomacy. It's not just COP, it's a year-round exercise that you need to do with different countries, different blocks. There are SIDS, there are LDCs, there are like-minded countries, then there are developed blocks, then there are development partners. Why do we have to rely on COP only? COP पे तो कुछ भी नहीं करते ना, आप जाते हैं, बोलते हैं, वापस आते हैं, agenda is pre-decided.
Yeah.
Even sometimes we do not even give our stance. We just go there, have pictures, talk about it, and then return. This is very unfortunate. I think this is not something that Pakistan is taking any kind of leverage from global climate diplomacy, because we are not showcasing our exact vulnerabilities. What it looks like as if we are begging from the world. That is something we must not be doing. We must talk about reparations. We were very strong when we were at COP27,
Yes.
the loss and damage stance. And I think उसके लिए भी बहुत मैटर करता है कि पाकिस्तान अपनी स्ट्रैटेजी क्लाइमेट के अराउंड वैसे ही रखे जैसे हम इकोनॉमी और ग्रोथ के अराउंड रखते हैं।
Yes.
तभी जाके हम शायद प्रोग्रेस करें, वरना क्लाइमेट को तो हमने वी आर टेकिंग इट एज समथिंग ऑफ फ्यूचर इंसिडेंट्स दैट माइट हैपन एंड देन वील सी के क्या करना है।
I second this, and especially इसी में मेरे while you were talking, what I observed was that once again consistency is lacking. So in COP27 we had a very good team, but in COP28 there was someone else, in COP29 there was someone else, in COP30 there was someone else. When I see other parties and their negotiation teams, they usually have a consistency core team. Maybe people are being added up to the party, but कोई consistent होता है, एक strategy
उसका
चल रही
reason
होती है,
होता है।
SP पे भी वही
हाँ।
जाते हैं, COP पे भी वही जाते हैं।
Exactly, that is my point. COP के क्लाइमेट COP के अराउंड निगोशिएशंस जिन्होंने करनी होती है, निगोशिएटर्स की टीम होती है, वो टेक्निकल लोग होते हैं, वो कोई सेक्रेटरी या मिनिस्टर्स नहीं हो सकते, ठीक है, क्योंकि ये तो चेंज होते रहते हैं।
Yes.
तो आपको टेक्निकल लोगों की टीम बनानी होती है जो कम से कम 1 साल नहीं, कम से कम 2-3 साल तो लगातार जिनको पता हो, जो इंगेज हो उसमें, टेक्निकल एक्सपर्ट्स होते हैं। यू डोंट डिसाइड फॉर योर नेगोशिएटर्स, अच्छा लास्ट मिनट पे अच्छा फलाना बंदा चला जाए, अच्छा ये चला जाए, अच्छा वो चला जाए,
लास्ट मिनट दूसरा
So, ये ऐसे नहीं होता। तो जो आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मैं नेबरिंग कंट्रीज की बात करूँ तो उनके निगोशिएटर्स, आप आई सेकंड यू ऑन दैट, उनके मुसलसल पिछले 3 कॉप से मैं एक ही टीम देख रही हूँ निगोशिएटर्स, और मैंने कभी निगोशिएटर्स में चेंज नहीं देखा जो निगोशिएट कर रहे होते। और मुझे अफसोस होता है कि हमारे निगोशिएटर्स हर साल अलग ही होते हैं, कुछ का तो पता भी नहीं होता।
एक साल तो उनको वो स्पेस समझने में लग जाता है,
कि ये
अगले
क्या
साल
हो
वो
रहा
होते ही
है।
नहीं।
एग्जैक्टली, और स्पेस भी हम ग्लोबल समझ रहे होते हैं, लोकली हमारे क्या चैलेंजेस हैं, ठीक है आप ग्लोबल नेगोशिएशंस में बैठे हुए हैं, बट वहाँ पे भी आपको लोकल डायनामिक्स को तो रखते हुए बात करनी। हम लीडरशिप रोल में नहीं जा रहे, हम साउथ एशिया में लीडर बन सकते हैं, वी हैव दैट पोटेंशियल, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली इवन इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ रीजनल डायनामिक्स एंड रीजनल डिप्लोमेसी मेजर्स, we simply do not prioritize climate at all in our diplomatic measures.
So we know COPs, they need a proper strategy long term. Let's go to our adaptation side. We know that Pakistan is highly vulnerable to floods. We have also been affected heat waves or water scarcity. what practical adaptation measures should we prioritize over the next 5 years? Maybe if some governance people are listening, they can speak to.
We need to assess the climate vulnerability zones in our country based on a standardized methodology. We do have standardized methodology, but risk zonation नहीं हुई है. So risk zonation करें, जिसको district level पर लेकर जाए, और क्योंकि हर district की needs अलग हैं. जब risk zone map बन गया, तो उसकी basis पे adaptation prioritize करें. Different adaptation, district level adaptation plans and village level adaptation plans बनाएं. उसमें coordination mechanism ऐसा हो जो सारे connected हो from bottom towards top, to the ministry, towards the PM office, bottom से एक district level की local government body से start करके या local village level council से start करके वो coordination cell होना चाहिए जो provinces में PNDs के साथ connected हो और federal में planning और ministry of climate change के साथ जो coordinate करें अपने mechanisms. Adaptation priority अगर district करक में drought है, चारसद्दा में pluvial flood है, तो लाहौर में जो है वो riverine flood है और हैदराबाद में वो कुछ और है, ठीक है, चोलिस्तान में वो कुछ और है. सो उसकी बेसिस पे आप जो है प्रायोरिटीज़ बनाते हैं, उन प्रायोरिटीज़ को कॉस्ट करें. कॉस्टिंग के बाद एनुअल डेवलपमेंट प्लान्स का हिस्सा बनाएं. देखिए कुछ प्रायोरिटी हैं जो आपको फौरी करनी है 3 सालों में, कुछ हैं जो 5 सालों में हो सकती है, कुछ है जो अगले 10 सालों में हो सकती हैं. उसी की बेसिस पे इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान बनाएं. वो प्लान जिसमें आप ये देखें कि एज पार्ट ऑफ ADP बजट कितना किया जा सकता है जो गवर्नमेंट उठा सकती है, वो बजट कितना किया जा सकता है जिसमें प्राइवेट सेक्टर और डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर आ सकता है, और तीसरा वो बजट जो आप डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर से मांग सकते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए. तो बैंकेबल सॉल्यूशंस बनाएं और इसको लोकल लेवल तक लेकर जाना पड़ेगा. और इसकी एंडोर्समेंट सिर्फ कह देना ज़रूरी नहीं है, इसमें आपको कस्टम में नॉलेज इंगेज करना पड़ेगा. आपके ग्लेशियर्स अभी भी रेगुलेटेड नहीं है, सो यू नीड टू सी व्हाट आर द इश्यूज, उसको प्रायोरिटाइज करें. और पॉलिसी प्लानिंग अगर आपकी क्लाइमेट ग्रोथ पे होगी ना तो इकोनॉमी खुद ही ग्रो करना शुरू कर जाएगी.
Amazing. Thanks for that take. Next question about the circular economy. बहुत important हो गया आजकल. It's becoming popular, but I know you've been working on it. I've also participated in many of your sessions. Can you explain to our audience in very simple terms what does it mean and how can we as Pakistanis benefit from it?
Because circular economy is, it does not mean recycling, that's the last stage of it. Usually people confuse it with plastics and recycling, that is not the case. Circular economy essentially means you design a product in a way that its waste is minimized. You know, you reuse it, you repair it, you remanufacture it, and last but not the least is the recycling process. अगर कुछ नहीं होता तो आप recycle करते हैं, downcycle करते हैं. So circular economy में first step is your waste segregation. पाकिस्तान जैसे कंट्री के लिए हम पहुंच जाते हैं पहले टैक्सिंग द पोल्यूटर्स. वही वेस्ट सेग्रीगेट नहीं होगा तो पोल्यूटर कहाँ से बताएगा कि जितना उसने फेंका है उतना इकट्ठा हुआ या नहीं हुआ. दैट इज द इशू. So you need to identify. Pakistan में a lot of potential exists in your textiles, in your agriculture, in your water, in your plastics, in your e-waste, in the organic waste. And सबसे बड़ा मसला हमारा organic waste का. Plastics is 4% only. प्रायोरिटीज़ हमारी प्लास्टिक्स पे हमेशा रहती हैं, बिल्कुल होनी चाहिए, बट आपका ऑर्गेनिक 60% है. यू आर द मोस्ट फूड इनसिक्योर कंट्री एंड 30% फूड वेस्ट कम्स फ्रॉम हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर. आपका SDG 1, 2 जीरो हंगर एंड पॉवर्टी कैसे एड्रेस होगा? तो आपने तो प्रायोरिटी खराब कर दी ना, प्लास्टिक को बैन कर दें, एंड देन यू नॉट इवन इंट्रोड्यूसिंग द ऑल्टरनेटिव्स, द चीप ऑल्टरनेटिव्स, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव ऑल्टरनेटिव्स टू द कंज्यूमर्स. तो ब्लैक में बैग्स तो अभी भी बिक रहे हैं. तो सेग्रीगेशन नहीं हो रही, तो आपकी तो वेस्ट का कोई मामला ही नहीं है, कोई पॉलिसी ही नहीं एग्जिस्ट करती. तो हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू बैन अ प्लास्टिक? मसला ही कुछ और है आपका. सो आई थिंक ये वाली प्रायोरिटीज भी हमारे पॉलिसी मेकर्स को थोड़ी करेक्ट करने की जरूरत है.
Okay, carbon markets. While you were there in COP29 and post COP29, आपको पता है there were some improvements in our policy space. But carbon markets are often seen as both an opportunity and a challenge. How can Pakistan responsibly benefit from carbon markets?
आई थिंक अब हमारी प्राइसिंग पॉलिसी है. सो द की इज प्राइवेट सेक्टर क्लस्टर करें प्रोजेक्ट्स विद स्मॉल मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस. आई थिंक दैट्स एन आइडियल अपॉर्चुनिटी. उसी की पाइपलाइन बनाई जाए और उसी में जो है वो इन्वेस्टर के साथ उनको कनेक्ट करें. कम्युनिटी बेनिफिट्स इज द की. आपको अच्छा क्रेडिट तभी इशू हो सकता है. इट्स नॉट कोई रेवेन्यू या पैसे नहीं होते. कार्बन क्रेडिट इज अ टोकन, सर्टिफिकेशन सॉर्ट ऑफ जो आपको दिया जाता है. वो आप सेल कर सकते हैं टू द पोल्यूटर कंट्रीज या डेवलप कंट्रीज, आपसे परचेज कर सकते हैं. इनोवेशन, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, रिन्यूएबल्स, नेचर बेस्ड सोल्यूशंस जैसे डब्ल्यू कार्बन इज अ सक्सेस स्टोरी फॉर पाकिस्तान. बट आई थिंक आइडियली यही है कि बड़ी कंपनीज छोटी कंपनीज के साथ क्लस्टर करें प्रोजेक्ट, एक प्रोजेक्ट एग्रीगेटेड बनाएं और उसके लिए अप्लाई करें. सो वहाँ पे अपॉर्चुनिटी.
Let's come on and talk about youth because we both working also in the youth space as youth leaders ourselves and also mentors for thousands of young people in Pakistan. And we know that Pakistan has one of the youngest youth population in the world. Now, for students and young professionals who might be listening to us, how can they contribute meaningfully to climate action, even if they don't have a background, like for example, let's say in development or environment?
Interestingly, I was somewhere वहाँ पे मेरा interaction हुआ youngsters के साथ, and I asked them one question. What do you think पाकिस्तान में किस चीज़ का सबसे ज़्यादा स्कोप है? आप ग्रेजुएट हो गए क्या? तो उनमें से कुछ ने कहा CSS और कुछ ने कहा कि कोई स्कोप नहीं, हम बाहर जाएंगे. सो माय क्वेश्चन इज, अब तो क्लाइमेट चेंज यूरोप और US में भी आ चुका है, राइट? और दूसरी बात ये कि आने वाले कुछ सालों में पाकिस्तान इज गोइंग टू बी अ प्लेस जहाँ पे लोग जॉब्स के लिए आएंगे. और क्योंकि यहाँ पोटेंशियल इतना है. दिस इज नॉट समथिंग, मैं कोई आइडियलिज्म से नहीं बात कर रही, बेस्ड ऑन द अनटैप्ड पोटेंशियल जिसकी मैं बात कर रही हूँ. इतनी जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज और मार्केट है, बट क्योंकि अनटैप्ड है और सही अगेन मेल पीपल फॉर द राइट जॉब वाला मसला है कि हम आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पा रहे. सो आप कहीं भी दुनिया में चले जाएं, इफ़ यू आर नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व अ प्रॉब्लम दैट एग्जिस्ट विद इन योर कंट्री, what are you going to do in any other country? If you do not have a vision in your life, then your life is simply useless. Have a vision. Try to identify what if you were not born, तो क्या फर्क पड़ना था? अगर आप दुनिया में आ गए हैं तो कुछ तो मकसद है. अपने मकसद को आइडेंटिफाई करें. कोई हैव अ विजन, परसिस्टेंस एंड ऑप्टिमिज्म के साथ थिंक ऑफ अचीविंग द इम्पॉसिबल. क्योंकि जब आप एक्सीलेंस के लिए स्ट्राइव करते हैं ना, तो आप कहीं ना कहीं पहुंच जाते हैं. सो एक्सीलेंस ये नहीं है कि अच्छा ये ट्रेंड चल रहा है तो मैं ये कर लूँ, या मुझे तो ये पता नहीं था, किसी ने गाइड नहीं किया. ये नोशन गलत है. गाइडेंस के लिए अब हर टूल अवेलेबल है, राइट? AI इज देयर नाउ. सो यू इंस्टेड ऑफ बीइंग लेजी, इंस्टेड ऑफ रोते रहना कि ये नहीं हो रहा, वो नहीं हो रहा, हमारी मर्जी का पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम नहीं है, ये नहीं वो नहीं है, आप ये सोचें कि मसले आसपास क्या है और उसको आइडेंटिफाई करें. एकेडमिया में जब आप थीसिस करते हैं तो पहले लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स के लिए लोकल सोल्यूशंस लेके आप बहुत ज़्यादा ब्रॉड नैनो बेस्ड मेडिसिन पे काम कर रहे होंगे तभी आपकी कंट्री में स्कोप नहीं है. हाँ, अनलेस एंड अनटिल आपको बाहर जाना है या कुछ करना है. आई थिंक देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पोटेंशियल इन आवर यूथ. स्किल लर्निंग पे रहें, स्किल्स सीखें, ऑनलाइन सीखें, लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्ट करें एंड डिस्कस आइडियाज more than any other gossips that will give you more benefits in your life.
Amazing. Let's go to the next question, which is also somewhat related to this. How do you see technologies like AI or data analytics and digital innovation supporting our story like climate resilience, environmental decision making?
These are breakthrough technologies and कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी बुरी नहीं होती because हम लोग दुनिया में चलने के लिए we have to follow. We have to learn, but unfortunately AI की वजह से cognitive capabilities बहुत impact हो रही हैं. What I have observed personally, इसके लिए ज़रूरी है कि हम अपने कुछ trends को continue करें, like book reading, like discussing ideas without using your phones, brainstorming sessions, observing मुख्तलिफ चीज़ें अपने आसपास, and do use AI. Get ideas from AI as well, but try to challenge AI. And it's okay if you're using AI, that's totally okay. मुझे नहीं पता ये आजकल क्या issues हैं. AI से लिखी हुई prompt तो AI से लिखा हुई, it's totally okay. अगर एक चीज़ सहूलियत के लिए मौजूद है आप यूज़ करें, लेकिन अपने आप को लूज ना करें साथ में. चैलेंज करें. सो द थिंग इज यस एआई का एक बहुत बड़ा ड्रॉबैक है कि डेटा सेंटर्स पानी बहुत यूज़ करते हैं और पानी को गंदा कर रहे हैं दुनिया में. कहा तो जा रहे कि अब समंदरों में शिफ्ट करेंगे, लेकिन अभी हमारे मुल्क में भी बात हो रही है एआई डेटा सेंटर्स खोलेंगे. आई डोंट नो, बीइंग अ वाटर स्कार्स, वाटर स्ट्रेस्ड country who is also facing water weaponization, why are we talking about having a AI data center in our country? It's again set of priorities is totally misalignment. वहाँ पे that's why. So ये कुछ चीज़ें हैं.
Thank you. Let's move to the next question, which is about climate finance. Climate solutions often require significant investment, and maybe, say, I would frame it as smaller organizations, initiatives that are working for climate solutions like us. When will this climate finance trickle down to these initiatives that actually deserve a piece of the share of climate finance?
So globally, the day when Global South will start giving its own agenda with imposing sanctions on Global North for not dispersing finance, that is going to be the day when they will disperse it. So unfortunately, there is no integration within Global South right now. So we'll keep on trying, definitely need this finance to be dispersed. They will not do it. Simple. Secondly, in local context, I think we need to identify our own potential of climate finance. बॉन्ड्स पे रिलायंस और ये सब छोड़ देना चाहिए. हमें अडेप्टेशन और ये ट्रिकल डाउन कैसे होता है, हाउ इट्स गोइंग टू रीच द लास्ट माइल, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. सो अगेन द रेवेन्यू फ्रॉम आफ्टर क्लाइमेट बजटिंग, इफ इट इज नॉट बीइंग रिंग फेंस्ड, reinvested back into the climate action, why are we even tagging it just to get disbursements from IMF? I mean, that is not right. Private sector potential is there, but you need to identify how to drive that potential, to the right set of actions that are actually required. Vulnerability zoning नहीं होगी तो फिर वो right action सिर्फ CSR project की हद तक रहेगा, वो आप translate नहीं कर पाएंगे. And community. So community action, collective action किस तरह से होता है वो आपकी governance पे determine होता है वहाँ से. So climate finance local problem भी है. Internationally, so it's more like a diplomacy problem, but locally it's more like a priorities problem.
Great. Next and very important question. Overall हमारी development debate के लिए for development dialogues, बहुत लोगों को लगता है that economic growth and sustainability, like they are in opposing directions, right? Is it possible for Pakistan to achieve both? And what would this balance look like?
देखिए, अगेन आई कनेक्टेड टू वन ऑफ द मीटिंग आई हैड, जहाँ पे मुझे बताया गया कि देखें, मिसाल दी गई कि चाइना ने इतने साल पहले गंदी ग्रोथ की, विद इंडस्ट्री एंड एवरीथिंग, जब कर ली तो उन्होंने फिर उसको रिवर्स कर दिया. दिस इज नॉट द राइट प्रायोरिटी. चाइना ने की, लेकिन चाइना ने उससे तेज़ी के साथ सस्टेनेबिलिटी की, ग्रोथ की, ग्रीन ग्रोथ की. पाकिस्तान में इशू ये है कि हम हर चीज़ को नंबर गेम्स में देखते हैं. इतने वी रिलाई ऑन इकोनॉमिस्ट टू डेवलप सर्टेन नंबर्स एज अ विजन प्लान फॉर आवर कंट्री, विच इज़ रॉन्ग. वाई? बिकॉज हमें जीडीपी ग्रोथ अगले कुछ सालों में इतना करना है. आप कैसे करेंगे जब एक सैलाब आ गया, आपकी इकोनॉमिक सर्वे रिपोर्ट में आइडेंटिफाइड है 8 से 22 बिलियन रुपए का नुकसान हो गया और ये डाउन साइज है, डाउन ट्रेंड है टुवर्ड्स योर ग्रोथ. तो आप क्लाइमेट को जब इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में रिकग्नाइज कर रहे हैं, लेकिन आप ये नहीं बता रहे कि वाटर स्कार्स नहीं, हम 800 से नीचे वो लेवल चला गया पानी का, तो फिर आप क्यों नहीं उधर एक्शन डाइवर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो कहीं तो मिसअलाइनमेंट आ रही है. इसका मतलब है कि जो लोग विजन प्लान्स बना रहे हैं, they are not capable enough because they are not realizing that this is the core issue. It means you need to do certain shifts in your policy making game. Growth and GDP is directly proportional to your climate change impact. So if your glaciers are melting and if there is no rainfall happening in Punjab, even then the water in the river is rising. We do not have our strategic storage. What are we going to do about it? Communities will be forced to relocate, right? तो उन पे पैसा, फिर हम एंड पे इमरजेंसी कैश ट्रांसफर्स पे रिलाई कर रहे होते हैं. और दैट इज आई डू नॉट पर्सनली, दैट्स माई पर्सनल टेक. कैश ट्रांसफर्स पे और ये सब करते हैं, आप कम्युनिटी की रेजिडेंस मजीद खत्म कर रहे हैं. अब लोग मतलब आप कह रहे हैं कि यूके डिपेंडेंसी बढ़ा रहे हैं. क्या आप पैसे ले सकते हैं, गवर्नमेंट दे देगी. दिस इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क एनीवेयर. सो यहाँ पे इशू है कि आप अपनी ग्रोथ को क्लाइमेट लेड ग्रोथ करें, सिर्फ कागजों में नहीं, एक्शन प्लानिंग से.
Totally second that. Looking ahead, as we look at our journeys, we've been there on the highest climate governance platforms. The next one is just coming up. What outcomes would you like to see in COP21 in Turkey, and what role should Pakistan play, all of us included in Pakistan, on the global stage?
Pakistan need to focus more on strengthening its negotiation game instead of the size of its pavilion. Pakistan needs to focus on the strategic agenda points that we need to take up and what we are going to be showcasing. Even if it's in your own pavilion, do make your own pavilion. I'm not saying that you're not going to make it. Do make it. But then, what are we trying to project? That is the question. And this is the time to start preparing. Rather, 2 months earlier was the time to start preparing for it. Even now, it's even now it's late. Regarding the global COP agenda, what I am looking forward is again a push from global south in context of developing its own benchmarks for the global north around disbursement, around sanctions. You cannot simply rely on global north around finance. They will keep on giving you loans. They will keep on making it more complex. So make a block. There are blocks. Combine them. Make us clear. G77 plus China is a block that gives a clear stance around it, but that stance is not very strict. That can challenge the global north. And plus, another agenda is the conflict over shared ecological resources. That is the right forum where you discuss it. We are in a region where there is a conflict happening over shared ecological resources. It's important that you make it part of the agenda. If it's not part of the agenda, where are you going to take it up? There's no other place. Because this is directly connected with your climate. But then before that, you need to put your own house in order first if you need to raise the voice in the climate space. Otherwise, it will be challenging.
So we have a lot to do for COP31. Definitely we will be in touch for that, and also try to bring together all stakeholders for this, because this is not about one organization or one individual. It's about Pakistan being represented in these spaces. Your personal reflection question almost coming to the end. Looking back on your journey, Zainab, what has been your most meaningful lesson or experience in climate advocacy?
I think it was whatever I learned was mostly, the research that I did in theory was not always correct. Why? Because communities have their own ways. So I learned climate adaptation from communities while working with them. And I think at COPs, I did not see the farmer who lost his land, his voice being heard. I did not see the woman who had lost her daughter because she got kidnapped while in the Camp 60 while she was on her way to the washroom. I did not see mountain communities being heard at COP. So I learned that I need to become a voice. Plus, because I work in a think tank, I believe the narratives around climate sustainability are getting more adopted narratives. We have our own sustainability. We know sustainability. We know climate action. We need to bring back that narrative. And so yes, I am trying to shape a narrative. I'm trying to bring it back. I'm not trying to introduce anything new. I'm just trying to remind people what they're losing and what others are trying to adopt.
Amazing. Now we have the rapid fire segment, quick questions. One climate myth you wish people would stop believing.
That climate finance can solve climate change.
Yeah, that may be just finances.
Yeah.
वो आ जाए तो सब कुछ हो जाए.
Absolutely.
I second that. One sustainability habit everyone can adopt today.
Focus on your daily practices. आप अपने हैबिट्स पे चाहे पानी पी रहे हैं चाहे कुछ खरीद रहे हैं क्या आपको उस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है और क्या चीज़ आप अवॉइड कर सकते थे सो आई थिंक चार्ट इट आउट मेक अ चार्ट फॉर योरसेल्फ एंड आई थिंक आपकी सस्टेनेबिलिटी जर्नी स्टार्ट हो सकती है
सच एज अपने वाटर ऑडिट करें, अपना एनर्जी ऑडिट करें, अपना कार्बन एमिशंस ट्रैक करें. A book or resource you'd recommend for anyone interested in climate policy?
Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of local books written. So I cannot recommend everyone to read Silent Spring also. That's very bookish thing that we do in environmental sciences. Rachel Carson wrote it in a very pretty good manner, but still, what I recommend is observe the people who are living in these areas, how they are surviving, and talk to them. I think
That knowledge is worth more than
yeah,
books.
yeah.
One word that describes Pakistan's climate future.
One word that describes Pakistan climate future, how it's going to be.
Yeah, or how you want it to be.
Local climate action. It's not one word, it's 3 words, but or indigenous knowledge.
Yes.
Yes, that is the key.
If you could change one environmental policy tomorrow, for example, हमने आपको MOCC दे दी साल, what would it be?
There's not one policy that I'll change. I think एक तो मैंने खुद भी बनाई है. I wish वो endorse हो जाए. But I think no, it's not going to be one policy. I just replace non-technical people with technical people. I think that's the first thing I'll do. Not as in firing everyone, but maybe I'll connect them with groups and with the right people who can guide them. So that's how by replacement I do not intend to fire anyone, but I'll just help them connect with the right people, and I'll help to try to bring the good practices that are being done in silos, under one umbrella, so that Pakistan's climate action trajectory is actually, it gets the right kind of acknowledgement that is still missing.
I like this strategy because once we have the right people, they are going to bring up the right policies
Yeah.
and everything. Closing question. If you could leave our audience with one message about turning climate commitments into real action, what would it be?
Turning climate commitments into real action. This is nothing imported. This is something local. This is something you can learn from your dada dadi, nana nani. Sit and talk to them. This is something you can learn from your mother who's working in a kitchen, who's managing the resources. She will tell you. This is not something for which you need to do a separate degree. But yes, physical science is extremely important. If you are a policy maker, if you have have stakes in any policies around it, scientific evidence is extremely important. If any policy is being developed by any development sector expert without integrating local scientific knowledge into it, that policy will not work. So look around you, talk to your family, discuss it as you discuss your, what you're going to be cooking for dinner, what you will get for lunch, or where you're going tomorrow, etc. So make it a habit, and I think that will help you think things through, and even someday you might be shaping up the policy. That is my message.
Thank you so much, Zainab. That was a wonderful conversation, and I hope all our viewers are going to enjoy and find a lot of meaningful things for your careers in this discussion. Thank you so much once again, Zainab. Bye bye.